Good day, audience. I am JM Lapasaran, a student of PLM Philly A51, presenting my paper titled Sera, the Consequentialist Ethics of Bahala. In this paper, I use definitions provided by Gripaldo in his paper Bahala, a philosophical analysis, and will be examining it under Consequentialist Ethics. I'll be getting into what these definitions are in a bit. Now, for this paper, I argue that regardless of the meaning, invoking Bahala is ethical as long as the occurrence after leads to a good or desirable outcome. To start off, Bahala is sometimes said by the Filipino when faced with acceptance or resignation towards a certain situation. As mentioned before, there are a plethora of definitions depending on the context of the situation. For the definition, again, I turn to Gripaldo as he goes more in depth in his analysis and his discussion regarding the term. Now, he identifies 6 different meanings of the term in various situations. Number 1, coming into terms with self-sacrifice. Number 2, to dissipate any potential worry. Number 3, when the person is left to do what they want but must be prepared to face the consequences that follow it. Number 4, being unmindful to the current situation that is playing out. Number 5, toleration to an individual's antics, leaving them alone to their own devices. And number 6, when implying a warning in the form of a taunt to another individual. Gripaldo adds that there are derivatives of the term bahala as sometimes the word na can be missing. Now I'll be giving out accounts for each meaning either from Gripaldo himself or from my own in order for the readers to better understand the paper. For the first meaning, Gripaldo extracted a definition from a song called Bahala Na by Heber Bartolome. And the song tells us about a Filipino woman who heads abroad despite the uncertainties that comes with heading abroad. This version of Bahala shows the Filipina coming to terms with the hardships that come with being an OFW, just so our family in the Philippines can live in welfare. Next would be the second meaning of Bahala as this pertains to a task and to whomever the task is assigned to. As seen with the example, sige, bahala na po ako dito. This version of Bahala shows the Filipino verbally affirming the responsibility and trust in order to dissipate any form of worry. The third use of Bahala is one of the derivatives that Gripaldo was talking about. For this meaning, a person is giving another individual permission to do what they want. An example would be, bahala ka, lumabas kung gusto mo, pero huwag mo akong sisihin pag pinagalitan ka ni mama. The fourth meaning of bahala pertains to the Filipino expressing apathy towards a phenomenon. An example is a conversation between classmates in a poster competition. Kung hindi pa tapos kilayin yung mountains, bahala na basta mapasa natin sa oras. This can mean that the Filipino has more important things to attend to, hence the apathy in actually finishing the poster. The fifth meaning behind bahala pertains to toleration. An individual leaving another individual to do what they want. Another way that this can be understood is with the term, hayaan mo na lang. An example would be in a context when one is voting. Sila yung mga namamahala dati pa. Ano ang magagawa natin? Bahala na. The sixth and the last meaning pertains to a tacit warning in the form of a taunt. Bahala na in this context translates to, go on with it. I dare you. An example can be, huwag kang umupo dyan sa naiinitan na semento. Kakabagin ka, sige, bahala ka. The warning is for the individual who attempts to sit on the heated pavement. Moving on, I will briefly explain what consequentialist ethics is, followed by its application to the accounts given by Gripaldo and my own hypotheticals on Bahala na. Now, consequentialist ethics' main claim is that the consequences of one's actions are the main factors in determining if an action is morally good or bad. To the consequentialist, an action is morally good if the consequences are good. Otherwise, an action is morally bad. As mentioned before, I applied consequentialist ethics to the accounts given by Gripaldo and my own hypotheticals, and this is what I found. For the first example, the one with the Filipino working abroad, the consequentialist would find it morally good that Bahala was invoked when she opted to go abroad, as the consequences of her going would maximize the overall welfare and quality of life for her family. For the second meaning, the one where Bahala was invoked to dissipate any potential worry, we can see that JM is presented with 2 choices. 1, JM does the task, or 2, JM does not do the task. To To the consequentialist, when JM evokes bahala na, it is only morally permissible if JM does the task assigned to him, as failure in doing so would make the consequences both unfavorable to him and his parent. Now for the third meaning, where bahala na is seen as the individual allowing another individual to do whatever they want but must be prepared for the repercussions, as seen in the example with the two siblings. To the consequentialist, the one who invoked bahala na is seen as ethical as sibling number 1 informs sibling number 2, who is about to head out, the repercussions of what would happen. On the contrary, it would be unethical of sibling number 1 to not invoke bahala na and not warn their sibling what would happen, as this would result in a bad outcome. For the fourth meaning, when bahala na was invoked by the poster maker, they were given two choices: to either color and finish the entire poster, not be able to submit, or to partially color the poster but be able to submit. To the consequentialist, the poster maker is only ethical in invoking bahala na if they decide to just partially finish the poster and pass it, as the consequences of passing the poster even though it was unfinished would be better than them finishing the poster but not being allowed to submit. Now, for the fifth meaning, where bahala na can be understood as hayaan mo na lang. For the example I gave, sinanay mo na mahala dati pa. Ano ba magagawa natin? Bahala na. To the consequentialist, invoking bahala na in this context is seen as unethical, as one knows the consequences of voting for corrupt officials, and between you and me, it is not then the maximum good for all the parties involved. Now, the last meaning of bahala na, where the word bahala is turned into a tacit warning, with the example, huwag kang mabuo dyan sa nainitin na semento, kakabagin ka, sige, bahala ka. To the consequentialist, invoking bahala na in this context is seen as ethical as the speaker opts to warn the individual not to sit down in the pavement. Again, on the contrary, it is seen as unethical if the speaker decides not to warn the individual, as they know full well what would happen if they do. With this, I have made use of Gripaldo's examples as well as my own hypothetical accounts and looked into the consequentialist ethics of the term bahala na, claiming that saying bahala na is only ethical when the consequences that follows it is morally good or permissible. With the examples and the hypotheticals given, I have found that all of them prove to be ethical, except for the fifth definition of bahala na. I ponder on the fifth definition of bahala na and its unethicalness, if this tells us something about how the Filipino addresses things. Thank you for listening to my presentation, and have a nice day.